My guest in this episode of Suds Search is George Nenni. George is the founder of Generations Digital, a digital marketing consultancy for auto dealerships. George has over 3 decades of experience helping automotive dealerships overcome an array of digital marketing challenges. He is the author of 2 essential books. His first is titled A Car Dealer's Guide to Google My Business, which explores all the unique opportunities for car dealerships within Google My Business. Just before this episode, George released his second book, A Car Dealer's Guide to Digital Marketing. George is an in-demand speaker and presenter at industry conferences like Digital Dealer, JD Power Roundtable, Internet Battle Plan, Innovative Dealer Summit, and many, many other places. He has his very own Google Analytics certification program called Generations Digital U. We'll talk a little bit about his course, which is designed for auto dealers and their marketing teams. Generations Digital is brought in by automotive dealerships to evaluate their digital marketing vendors. George and his team specialize in identifying wasted spend by analyzing Google Analytics, scrutinizing media spend primarily on Google and Facebook. George and his team function like white blood cells, fighting off wasted ad spend from dealers' marketing budget. George is also passionate about Google My Business and the potential for dealerships to utilize this free program from Google to improve the bottom line of every department in their store. We're going to spend some of our conversation discussing the missed opportunities auto dealerships experience and how they could use the awesome power of GMB to sell more cars. Grab something cold to drink and join me for a conversation with one of the top automotive digital marketers in the world. We'll talk about what keeps them excited about automotive after 30 years, what unique challenges auto dealerships face on GMB, and I'll ask him a few questions about his popular Chrome extension, GMB Spy. George Nenni, welcome to Suds Search. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to talk to you. You have a long career in auto, and so I thought I would start there. One logical question I would have is a lot of the stuff you talk about, GMB best practices, waste and ad spend, these could apply certainly to a lawyer or to a dentist or to a cosmetic surgeon. What excites you about auto dealerships now, even after you've been in the industry for all these decades?
Yeah, I love automotive for a number of reasons. For one, it's the largest advertising segment in the country. And so it's depending on how you slice it, there's just a lot of dollars that go through there. There's a good portion that are OEM tier 1, the manufacturers, but also what we call tier 3, the automotive retailers. They spend on average $26,000 a month just on digital. So those are some pretty good budgets. What we do is we don't sell any services. All we do is help dealers decide what's working and what's not. And so we need a good size ad budget to even justify someone doing business with us.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I want to ask you a little bit about your services later on, but first, Sure. Our audience should know you literally wrote the book on GMB Management, and that tells me a couple of things. I've been in this game for a little while. It used to get rebranded all those places and
Sure.
Google Plus. If you're going to write a book, it tends to think this is not a passing fad. This is going to be around for a while. Do I have that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was the book. Really, we stumbled into it last Christmas. I had a number of different articles for customers, all on Google My Business how-tos. And right before Christmas break, I said, George, can you kind of put these all together into something continuous? And I was thinking to myself, maybe we'll get a binder for the dealers and we'll have these articles. And as we brought it all together, my son, who's a senior at Ohio State and a good writer himself, also said, hey, Dad, I'll help you and we'll assemble it all. I took slide decks and converted them into written form. And really, in the end, we ended up with a book. And books are really cool. They really give a great impression to the audience. But self-publishing is really not hard at all. So also discovered how easy that was. And we're hopefully a couple weeks from our second book, also around digital, but not around Google My Business. So it's something relatively easy to do.
Well, that's great. And I think there must have been some problem that you kept coming up against that you saw with small businesses. Maybe even the basics. What sort of basic things could people who read your book take away just to get started even?
Sure. Well, the basic best news is that all the work is very, very light lifting. So no real coding, no real under the hood, tricky stuff that dealers have to work through. Literally, they just need a playbook. And you're right, it's not just dealers. You can substitute hairdresser, lawyer, whatever it is for a car dealer throughout the book, and the same principles apply. The work is really easy. The benefits are large. And really today, and I think most people would agree in the SEO world that local SEO for the most part has become much about Google My Business and maximizing opportunities there.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I wonder, do you find that there are some unique things with auto dealers? I think of nested listings or department listings. You've spoken about this on podcasts I've mentioned. What are some unique things for auto dealers that they should be looking at in Google My Business?
The first thing you do when you go to Google My Business, I think for the novice, is just go to the home page. And Google does a nice job of kind of giving you a little report card. They'll say 70% or 50% or 85% complete. And then they'll tell you the pieces that you're missing. And as I mentioned, the work is really light lifting. You're just kind of filling in the blanks. You're missing your business description. Oh, great. Let me put in my why buy statement for my dealership. You're missing, your short name, your short code. Okay, well, I'll enter that and see how that works. And
images are always one, yeah.
Images, yeah. So the two biggest signals we see are images and reviews in terms of getting those listings to be more visible. And so we'll also help direct that for the dealers.
Well, you mentioned it. This is one of the things I found really interesting about you is you have on your website 3 consulting services that you provide. Mm-hmm. You're sort of like white blood cells. You come and fix the work that other vendors are doing. You're kind of help the dealership, but you're not basically. I want to make sure I have this right, but you're not in the weeds. You're not doing the day-to-day sort of Google Ads work and everything like that. These are different services than Search Lab has, where we're really we are in the weeds. How did you arrive at these services? Why not start another agency like everybody else does?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I got into digital and automotive in '93. It was a family startup called Dealer Specialties, which grew just gigantic amounts in the '90s. My 2 older brothers sold the business in January of 2000 to a company called Trader Publishing. They later became Dominion Enterprises. Stayed on with them. They made lots of acquisitions in digital marketing. Ran a number of those businesses. Left in August of 2017 to start what I thought was going to be an agency, but non-competes really forced me to just consult for a while. And what I discovered was that there was just this tremendous amount of waste, and not only waste, but also just in some ways misleading the dealers. The dealers are really smart operators. They just don't know the acronyms. They don't know how digital marketing works. And so to some degree, I felt like some of the agencies were maybe kind of glazing over that, and the dealers just had huge amounts of money that were wasted. So we carved out a story around that and kind of a monthly engagement with those customers, and they just really got addicted to it. So for the first time ever, they had an agnostic, a consultant who wasn't on the take with any vendor or getting any commissions or spiffs, but was on their side and really advocating for them and training their staff to be better consumers of digital marketing. And so it's just it's grown like crazy.
So there's this interesting tension that I could see happening with you and the vendor. How do you navigate that relationship?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I always try to say going into the vendor, first, we don't offer any services. We're vendor agnostic. And our job is not to get the vendor fired, but hopefully to be another set of eyes and you make the vendor better, without trying to sound arrogant. And so to your earlier question, we do get in the weeds. So we not only engage the dealer once a month to give them sort of a presentation of how the month went, but we also sit in on the agency calls weekly. And, when they're going through their numbers, we're in analytics, we're looking at the keywords and the search queries and how they're optimizing and what the conversion rate on their Facebook, campaigns are. And, we just come through and grade it. We've got benchmarks in terms of cost per shopper, cost per vehicle view, cost per, hard conversion, lead, chat, text, click to call. And then we try our best to turn digital marketing into a math exercise. So the dealers can say, what am I willing to spend to sell a car? Okay, let's work backwards. How many leads do we typically close to an appointment, to a test drive? How many test drives do we close to a sale? And then we work backwards and say, we're not willing to pay any more than $8 per paid keyword. And we're not willing to pay any more than $40 per Facebook lead, those sort of things.
Well, it's interesting. And I love guys like you who have this hatred for waste. I think it's a great cause. When you're looking for big piles of money, when you're looking for not just a few bucks, maybe you got a tool you don't need or anything like that, but you're looking for a big pile of money. Is that in ads? Is that where that's going to be, or is that in?
Definitely, yeah. Most dealers, and we do some non-automotive as well, and it helps us keep sharp. on our automotive business, but most dealers overspend on paid search. They either misspend or underspend on paid Facebook, and then they spend nothing on email, which is interesting. I'm drawing a blank on the gentleman you interviewed here recently talking. I love some of the quotes around email marketing saying, look, Google is hiding some of your search queries for your keywords. Facebook may or may not be, kind of misleading you down the same path, but use your first party data from your CRM or for your database and really nurture that, feed that, and then, milk it. You drip marketing to unsold prospects or to service customers that haven't been around for 18 months, those sort of things.
Yeah, shout out to David Mim. I think that was the guest. So
that's what it was, David Mim, sorry.
Yeah, he's outstanding. So, well, I love this. So what are the ways that okay, so you're wasting money. What are they doing? What are they just running ads for keywords that have no business? Are they spending too much money on the brand name? What are the common ways that people are wasting money in ad spend?
Sure. So with automotive, we put Google ad spend into 5 categories. 1, their name, their branded name, and 2 would be what we call make geo. So Chevy dealer near me, Chevy dealer Cincinnati, and then new cars, used cars, and then fixed operations, which would be service and parts. Of those 5, we have them eliminate used cars. So used cars with paid search is just very, very difficult to hit any good success metrics. And so unless someone has 1,000 used cars and very deep in any individual make models, that won't make sense. The brand makes a ton of sense as long as they can get their cost per click really low. And then the sweet spot for automotive in paid search is the make geo. So Ford dealer near me, Ford dealer Cincinnati, those sort of things. And then for new cars, we're very choosy with that. We want to make sure the dealership has good depth on those new car landing pages so that the searcher is satisfied. And then, fixed operations, it's all about the landing page and the offer and being able to really count success. So count leads and scheduled service visits and those sort of things.
Okay. It seems to me, as I watch you, that you're the type of person who, for fun, likes to go into analytics. Like it's something you enjoy. You actually have a certification program that I want to make sure we'll link to in the show notes as well. But the question I had, first certification, there's also a certification you can get from Google.
Correct.
I really like the idea of a certification for a specific audience. What sort of takeaways could people get from your certification that they're just not available to the generalist, the person who's going to go on Google and do their certification?
Yep, great question. So in our certification, we don't attempt to try to teach dealers or any audience Google Analytics from soup to nuts. We really spend most of our time in the menus and functions that really will deliver the most important answers for them, which are which of my digital advertising investments has given me my biggest return on investment. And as you probably know, that's all in the acquisition menu. So we spend a lot of time there. But we also show dealers how to build an automotive layer into Google Analytics. One of the things that's really important to dealers is something we call VDPs, or vehicle detail pages. And those we know are a precursor, hopefully, to a chat or a click to call or a lead form. And so we measure those as well. But we show the dealers how to create goals around VDPs and search results pages, SRPs, and really just try to flavor it that way. How to carve off all their OEM referral clicks, which are super high quality, from Ford.com, RamTrucks.com, and also the third parties. So Cars.com, Autotrader.com send a lot of really good traffic, helping the dealerships to kind of ward that off into a segment to be able to analyze it individually. And that's another big investment for dealers. Also, those third party classifieds, helping them to turn that into a math exercise also.
I love this. And I agree with you. I think there are auto dealers are marketers. They're at least converse. They may be fluid, but they are conversational in marketing for sure. And one of the things for how much you love analytics, how do you deliver it to an auto dealer or a general manager and get them excited about it? Where do you go first?
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's having when you say Google Analytics to dealers, they already know, they've heard the importance of it. They know that that's the key to them getting transparency. But what we say to them is really take control of your own reporting, right? You have analytics on your website. It's a free tool. We can teach dealers just to learn a few reports they can run themselves, so that when they're doing their agency review call each month, they're not really beholden to those reports. a lot of which they don't look at, most of which they don't trust. And so now they've got their own dashboard where they can kind of look at their different campaigns and the conversions. And honestly, I mean, I think the way that we'll put it together will be better than the agency tends to focus on really, really high level, cost per click, impression share, rank, which are all important elements, but they don't really follow the clicks downstream. And so, we're trying to balance that and really, really focus on what do they do when they got to the website? Did they look at your homepage, throw up and leave 10 seconds later? Or did they go deep? Did they look at multiple VDPs, multiple vehicles? Did they return in subsequent visits through other channels? So, so we use assisted conversions and multi-channel, funnel a lot, because the car buying cycle is, it takes, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, depending on the shopper.
Yeah, no, without question. Well, I want to just go back to GMB real quick. There's a tool that you guys have. I want to make sure that I promote this. It will allow me to look, if I have a competitor who's outranking me, it's annoying me. It's like, this guy shouldn't be outranking me. I can actually do some work without really knowing a whole lot. I can learn what categories they're selecting. Tell us about this tool and how you even decided to come up with it.
Yep. So the GMB Spy Chrome extension, that was one of our quarantine projects. So I think it was January or February, and it may have been Darren Shaw that published an article that talked about the way that you can find categories in the HTML. So I thought that was great. It took me a couple clicks. I wasn't clicking in the right area, and a right click, look through the HTML. I think you had to look for the 2 tildes together after the second instance or something, and then boom, there's the categories, which I thought was wonderful. But no one's going to be willing to go through that process. And I love Chrome extensions. I like them because they're and I'm a longtime techie. I mean, when I went to college, we had dual floppy IBM PCs, and so I've lived through the whole computer and then internet and now where we are today. And so, they used to have something called a terminate and stay ready. They were called TSRs, and they were really cool because you could be in DOS and you could pop up a little calculator and you thought you were fantastic. Well, Chrome extensions are the same sort of thing to me, where you don't really have to build a lot of logic and a lot of programming. You can kind of say, okay, I'm going to navigate somewhere and now I'm going to stop. Let's fire this thing up and give me some information. And so it felt like a Chrome extension for Google My Business sniffing, for data was the right fit. And so, we worked with a developer and showed them what we wanted, and they got a prototype out pretty quick. And it was interesting. I launched that tool knowing that categories were important, but really had no idea how important they were. And so when the whole SEO community began to adopt the tool, and people were sending me messages like, why doesn't it work in Spain? And so we had to quickly go back to the drawing board and make sure the thing worked in all international domains. And we had a couple other things that the surprising uptake of it also surprised us in that we were not ready technically. Really amazed me the power of categories. And so I began reading just tons of stuff that people had written on categories, and was so a little bit of luck there.
Yeah, it's no good deed goes unpunished, George. They're for sure going to give you a hard time about this. Well, I think it's fascinating. So the last thing I want to ask you about auto dealerships. Let's say you're an FCA. You have a Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep auto dealership. You have a parts department. You have an auto repair shop. Your GMB has a little bit more going on than a jewelry store, which is just sort of jewelry. What are the best practices to make sure you're taking advantage and you're appearing for all these different sort of search opportunities?
Sure. And really, I've published about looking at the big box retailers, just because I was really surprised at how well they had really penetrated that. And so for dealers, we advise them to have separate GMBs for sales, service, parts, body shop, and maybe used cars if they're that committed to being able to stay up with the listing. But at a minimum, sales, service, and body shop. We know that they're limited on 10 categories, right? And so in the automotive world, you can use up those categories pretty quickly, especially on the fixed operations side. And so it becomes impossible for a dealer to really rank high on body shop and collision categories, as well as sales categories, and all the fixed ops categories, fixed operations. And so by having those separate departmental GMB pages, now they've expanded their real estate and really winning on non-branded category search, which in my opinion, that's really what GMB is all about, right? Not winning on your name, since Google takes care of that. It's winning on the non-branded terms. And we specifically track non-branded clicks from GMB pages for dealers, especially for the departmental ones. And we'll show them, we're like, you're winning increasingly on these non-branded, searches. And so that's a great thing.
It's a key metric for us too. If that isn't starting to separate, yeah, it's a problem. So, all right, well, fantastic, George. I want to make sure I link to all these things in the show notes. You're a wealth of knowledge on not just GMB for auto dealers, but I learned a lot for all our clients, I think, from studying you here. How do people get in touch with you?
Easiest way is probably just Google my name. It's a pretty unique name, and I'll be all over page one with the websites and the GMB Spy tool. But you can find me on LinkedIn. You can go to generationsdigital.com. That's kind of a mouthful to type in. So I do encourage people to just search for my name, or on Amazon. Obviously, our book's up on Amazon. Our GMB Spy tools on Chrome, and so those all will have different channels to reach me.
All right. Well, I'm going to take a chance here. You said your son's at Ohio State. As we are filming, they are undefeated and look invincible in the Big Ten. Yes. Are they going to run the table? And is Justin Fields going to win the Heisman Trophy?
If he can get enough snaps. I mean, it's just with all these cancellations, you wonder, is it going to be just a raw numbers game? But of course, we feel he certainly deserves it, and they should. I was really disappointed with we didn't get to complete the Maryland game, and there's a number of other. We didn't play last weekend, and so it's a bit frustrating. But we just gotta stay healthy and cross our fingers.
I'm a Big Ten guy too. We got started late, so we had to wait to start the season. So
I saw Michigan State. I saw that. I was on your
saw that. We had a
days.
Big win last weekend, and 2 weeks we've looked good, and the other weeks we look like the worst team in America. So I'm also a Lions fan, so I guess I'm also just glutton for punishment. But I'm kind of hoping the Lions lose enough where Justin Fields is actually a viable option for our draft pick. But,
yeah, get an early draft pick. Yeah. So have you spent much time in Northern Michigan? That's I know that's big Michigan State country. We've had some great vacations up Traverse City, Torch Lake. Just some gorgeous.
You just described my summers growing up. So we always went up to Glen Arbor, which is not far from Traverse City, and I love it up there. It's God's country. Yeah, I love it.
Yep, some great breweries up there too.
No doubt. So maybe next time we do this, let's get up there and we'll do it in bathing suits and flip flops. It sounds good.
That'd be perfect.
All right, George. Well, thanks so much for coming on Suds Search. We'll be back next week and look forward to seeing you on the road.
Very good. Thanks for thinking of me.
All right. Bye now.